Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. This social media has been abuzz with this story where Dr. Ibbo Mandaza has called on Chamisa to leave opposition politics because he has been giving people false hope. Let me say this. Of course, Dr. Mandaza is right. Chamisa has been giving people false hope. My only contention with him would be that it would not help saying Chamisa must leave. Because the problem is not with Chamisa. The problem is with the people themselves. If they are so gullible, they can believe an idiotic lie like I've plugged all the vote rigging loopholes to stop ZANU-PF rigging the elections. Then Chamisa is only exploiting their ignorance and stupidity. And even if Chamisa was to step aside, somebody else will take advantage of it. So the problem is not solved. The problem is with the people themselves. When you have got an electorate that is so naive, you have a problem. That is the message. Still, I come back to the original point. He has a point. Chamisa has been giving people false hope. Here is a short video clip where Chamisa is assuring the people, this was before the last year's elections, when he had told the people CCC would win big because he had plugged all the vote rigging loopholes.
Makorokoto Zimbabwe nokuti hakuna munhu anomira kana denga raronga plan. Denga raronga plan, denga harifoiri. Plan yaMwari haifoiri. Ini ndatanga kugadzira cabinet. There is no way we are not going to form a new cabinet. There is no way we are not going to have a celebration. There is no way we are not going to have an inauguration. Let's start preparing for our inauguration. Let's start preparing for our celebration.
And here is a clip of Margaret Dongo speaking on another issue, the issue of corruption and incompetence in the opposition, which is another big problem.
Back on any project, because if you back on any project, there's no guarantee that you sail through.
You keep talking about corruption. How deep, how endemic is corruption in this country? From you, I mean, you sit in the Central Committee, and I'm sure you still have colleagues.
It's like tea. Chai, Kenyans call it chai. It's like tea. Now it's no longer in the hierarchy only. It's now it is developed even in the grassroots. It's even more ways in the grassroots, because these are the grassroots people who see their leaders being corrupt. So they are thinking that it's a type of life that should exist. And then the corruption is shrunk right to the grassroots. There's now corruption everywhere. Worse off with the leadership. Because they have a look. You asked me a very good question. You were in the Central Committee. You were a member of Parliament. You were this and that. Why are you feeling the pinch? It's because, I didn't believe in corruption. I'm not a selfish person. I'm a selfless person. And I'm like a social worker. Politics is not a business. This is what I want to remind most of our MPs and other people.
Do you think they look at it as a business?
Yes, they look at it as a business. Because they look at it as a business, seriously. Because the moment they go, business and employment creation, Because if they go to parliament, you are employed. You get a car, you get a stable salary, and you are paid until your term is over. Already you are employed. If you are out, you're out of employment.
If you serve 2 terms, you get a pension?
You get a pension. Then already, this is why people kill in politics. They kill to be in parliament.
Did you know that when you wear lenses, your eyes become lazy? Instead, try these self-adjustable glasses that are taking the world by storm. They let you achieve a perfect 20/20 vision at any distance, which means you won't have to visit your eye doctor ever again. They were created by an optician who dedicated his life to providing us.
My apologies about that one. I didn't want the advert. Just wanted to concentrate.
That. Why are you feeling the pinch? It's because, I didn't believe in corruption. I'm not a selfish person. I'm a selfless person. And I'm like a social worker. Politics is not a business. This is what I want to remind most of our MPs and other people.
Do you think they look at it as a business?
Yes, they look at it as a business. Because they look at it as a business, seriously. Because the moment they go, business and employment creation, because if they go to parliament, you are employed. You get a car, you get a stable salary, and you are paid until your term is over. Already you are employed. If you are out, you're out of employment.
If you serve 2 terms, you get a pension?
You get a pension. Then already, this is why people kill in politics. They kill to be in parliament. This is why we have violence in this country. Because there is no employment. The only employment which is there is in politics. There is no other outside employment. So for them, a very good example is, look at what happened to CCC, the Triple C party. Have a look. When they lost, when they said they were rigged, what I expected from them, I expected all parliamentarians to say, we are not going to go to participate in a rigged system. And we are not going to sit in a rigged parliament. Because the elections have been rigged. So all of us were not going to parliament. Imagine what could have happened. We could have gone into new elections. There's no way ZANU-PF was going to rule alone.
You think so?
Yes.
Do they care?
Caring or not caring, the public would have forced them, because the majority of the people would want representation in parliament.
Well, stop it there. This point has been misunderstood by many people. The truth of the matter is, MDC Triple C have been on the political stage for the last 24 years, 5 of which in the GNU. They failed to implement even one token democratic reform in the 5 years in the GNU. And after that, they've been participating in flawed elections out of greed. This point has got to be underlined and stated again and again. Of course, Dr. Mandaza was right to say that the opposition, as led by our friend Nelson Chamisa, is giving people false hope that there is change when they know there's not going to be any change. And the chief beneficiary of all this corruption and incompetence on the part of the opposition is ZANU-PF. ZANU-PF was able to blatantly rig last year's elections because MDC Triple C failed to implement even one token reform in 24 years. And they were able to get away with it because Nelson Chamisa and company were able to entice, con people into participating in the flawed elections and thus giving the process credibility. That point cannot be overemphasized. And yet some people seem to miss it again and again. Mnangagwa would have not got away with the rigged elections last year if Nelson Chamisa had not conned millions of people to participate. Nearly 2 million voted for Chamisa last year, according to site results. And there were 3 to 4 million Zimbabweans in the diaspora who were cheering and even bankrolling those flawed elections. With that level of participation, SADC had no choice but to accept the process as legitimate. And they did. And so to keep on blaming SADC is to completely miss the point. So here is Mnangagwa insisting that the elections last year were free, fair, and credible, and he won them.
Vana vakatuka ZANU-PF kana ini ndonyanyisa kufara kuita zvakanaka. Ukavona vavengi vako vachikurumbidza unenge uchikanganisa. Ukavona vachiti ZANU-PF yakaipa, farai. You are doing correct things for your country. Hongu takaita maelections edu kuna vamwe vaitaura zvisina musoro zvikanzi maelection anafamba zvakanaka ndezvavo.
He was only being boastful. SADC, the AU, unlike in the past, this time they condemned those elections as flawed because they were flawed. But SADC, like I said, could not take the next rational step and deny ZANU-PF political legitimacy as they did in 2008, because millions of Zimbabweans had participated in those flawed elections. So in this saga, started by Dr. Mandaza, asking Chamisa to step aside, many people have been surprised that Motormouth George Charamba has come out in support of Chamisa, arguing that those who are asking Chamisa to step aside should form their own party. I think the only question that anyone should ask is, why is ZANU-PF supporting Chamisa? But of course, the answer is self-evident. ZANU-PF has to support Chamisa, has to support MDC-CCC leaders, because they are the ones who have helped to keep ZANU-PF in power these last 24 years. ZANU-PF has been the chief beneficiary of MDC-CCC corruption and incompetence. As I said, if Chamisa had not conned millions of people to participate in the flawed elections last year, Mnangagwa would have failed to get political legitimacy. And so ZANU-PF is really worried that if this criticism of Chamisa goes to its logical conclusion, and we see Chamisa being totally discredited, that could have serious repercussions. A discredited opposition would not be able to con people to participate in these flawed elections. And so ZANU-PF will be able to rig the elections, but because no one participated in those flawed elections, would not get political legitimacy. So our friend George Charamba is not coming to Chamisa's aid out of the kindness of his heart. He knows that ZANU-PF cannot afford to have a discredited opposition. They don't care whether it's Chamisa or Welshman Nuwe or Iti or somebody else, Savango, as long as they are able to entice enough people to participate in the elections and give the process credibility. That is what ZANU-PF cares about. But this onslaught on Chamisa is not only discrediting Chamisa, it's discrediting the whole opposition. And if people were to open their eyes and see for the first time that they've been taken for a ride all these years by the opposition, that is worrying for ZANU-PF. Because if 2028 comes along, and instead of the 2 million voting for Chamisa, the hundreds of thousands attending his rallies, and thus giving SADC and any other observer the impression that Zimbabweans believe in the election process, believe in Chamisa's promise that he has plugged all the vote rigging loopholes, and thus giving the process credibility, ZANU-PF will also lose credibility. That is the point. So don't be fooled and think that our friend has had a change of heart. No, George Charamba and these ZANU-PF friends, they are brutal, selfless, selfish, and greedy. But they also have the common sense to realize that a corrupt and incompetent MDC, CCC is what has helped to keep them in power, at least these last 24 years. One of the people who weighed in this debate was Susan Mutami, and she was talking of corruption. She wasn't saying anything new there. We all know that corruption has been part and parcel. I think the only new thing she said is that ZANU-PF has been paying some of our opposition leaders directly. When Mugabe bribed them with the trappings of high office during the GNU, that was indirect. When Mnangagwa paid the opposition the 40,000 housing allowance MPs, which included his own MPs and senators as well, that was indirect. But what Susan was talking about is how ZANU-PF has been bribing the likes of Chamisa directly. That would not come as a surprise at all. And indeed, some of the donors that have kept the opposition going have never been revealed, but it would not come as a surprise at all to find that ZANU-PF was itself involved. It is in the interest of ZANU-PF to make sure that we have got a corrupt, incompetent opposition, but that it should retain enough political credibility to con people to participate in fraud elections. Our challenge is to educate the electorate, to make them open their eyes and see for themselves that the MDC CCC leaders have been running with the povo hair in broad daylight this last 24 years, when in reality they've been hunting with the ZANU-PF hounds at night. And in some cases, in broad daylight too. Food for thought. Thank you very much for joining me, and have a nice day.